We count seabirds on Skomer every year, and some of this data is going back almost 40 years. It's really important to monitor the seabirds on Skomer because it gives you a really good indication of the marine environment and the health of the seabird colonies on the island as well. So we can look at long-term changes in the population and the trends in what they're doing as well. So there's not many places in the UK that have a data set as long-running as good as Skomer's. Today we are out on the northeast coast of Skomer, and we are counting auks, so guillemots and razorbills on the cliffs. So we're split into two teams, one team counting guillemots and one team counting razorbills on each section, and there are 45 sections around the island, most of which are counted by boat, but there's a few that are counted from land as well.
We are watching and counting the guillemots and the razorbills on the cliffs. We have to count every cliff nesting seabird on Skomer twice, so from land and sea. We just always hope for good weather at this time of year, because fog or high winds absolutely knocks out our ability to count the birds. The guillemots in particular can pack themselves really deeply on the cliff shelves. It takes a little while to get your eye in. And what we normally do is we have two counts, ideally with two counters, and those two counts have to be within 10% of one another. If they are, we can move on. If they aren't, then we start again. So yeah, you're always crossing your fingers that the counts are close, and that's a way of ensuring that we are getting as good counts as possible. So the entire island is split into sections, and we have these marked out on a map. So this shows whether we are counting these sections from land or from sea, and it also shows the boundaries of each section. This year, the methodology that we use for counting the auks has actually changed. Previously, we have started counting on the 1st of June, and this has been a consistent thing year on year. We're now starting to count these birds at the median egg lay date. So it will vary year on year. In different places around the UK, we aren't going to have the guillemots doing the same things at the same time as, for example, nos. So yeah, hopefully this will give us a better picture of what is going on with the birds here.
One of Skomer's best known birds, one that people come to see when they visit us in the earlier months of the year, so from April all the way through to the end of July, is the Atlantic puffin. They are charismatic and they're absolutely everywhere, and they are also one of the birds that we count at the very start of the season, unlike the rest of our seabirds. Most of our seabird counts take place in June. This is not the case of the puffins because they are nestled away underground feeding their chicks. So our puffin counts actually take place at the end of March, at the very beginning of the season. So this year there were 3 of us on the island, so 3 staff members plus 1 volunteer. And in typical form, all of the puffins decided that that day was going to be the day they all came onto land. And it's these big days when we really see the puffin numbers hike that we begin to count. So numbers slowly build from kind of mid-March onwards. You see one puffin on the water kind of tucking away, just doing its own thing, and then a week or so later you start to see the first ones coming onto land, just in small groups, the first really brave puffins. And then those numbers build and build towards the end of March. We reach a threshold number in North Haven, so the area that those of you who've come onto the island will know where the boat lands. And once we're at that number, that's it triggers a count. And you take your binoculars, you take your clickers, and you count every bird you see on the water, in the air and on the land. It's quite a challenge. I tend to click 1 every 10 birds, and it's a lot of birds, it's a lot of clicking, but it's incredible to kind of see them in those numbers before they are disappearing into those burrows. What's really remarkable is this year we had our highest count since kind of pre-war times. So we're up at just under 39,000 Atlantic puffins right here on Skomer. It's an increase of about 4,000 birds from last year, so it's amazing. Elsewhere in the UK we're seeing puffin numbers decline, yet here on Skomer and on Skokum just to the south of us we're seeing them doing incredibly and increasing. We don't know why, but we're really glad that there are so many of them choosing to call the island home.